Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Trey TD podcast. This is episode 3. Just basically where I watch basketball. I like watching basketball. I like talking basketball. And I record me talking about it. So just the first thing is, I know it's going to be a little random. Shout out DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's been having a good, 3-4 game stretch. Let me go to his stats tonight. He played pretty good. Let me turn that down just in case. He played against the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Clint Capella had 14 rebounds, but didn't amount to Ayton's 19. And he had 33 points, along with Anthony Simons having 36 and DeJounte Murray having 40 and then losing. But anyways, let's get to the real thing that happened tonight. I'm gonna talk about some of the games that happened tonight, and then I'm gonna get to the main topic. The main topic is just which team is under the most amount of pressure. That's what it is. The one game that I watched pretty much to its entirety is the Bulls. This was a phenomenal game. DeMar DeRozan and Miles Turner put on a show. Tyrese Haliburton had 17 and 14. Miles Turner had 27 points. DeMar DeRozan had 46. And Caruso had 23. And Ayo Dosunmu had 20. Hopefully Kobe White it's not a bad or long-term injury. He's been having a most improved type season. Do I think he's going to win it? No. I think it's between a mixture of 2 to 3 players. Outside of Kobe White, I think it's going to be between Jalen Johnson, Tyrese Maxey, and Alperen Sengun. But Kobe White's been having a phenomenal year. Pistons, Raptors, didn't watch that. Magic, Nets, I'm not really interested in watching the Nets no more. I'm going to probably go back and watch the Magic possessions, or I'll watch the whole possession. Cavs just dominated the Pelicans, if I'm going to be honest. It was kind of, it wasn't bad until about the third quarter. But Darius Garland put on a show. Donovan Mitchell came back, didn't shoot well, but don't expect him to come back and put up 40 points after he just missed the previous 6, maybe 7 games or something like that. Pelicans, I'm gonna talk about them later. I watched all the other games, but I'm not really, nothing too crazy happened. I just wanted to talk about my Bulls for a quick second, but to the original topic of this podcast, which team is under the most amount of pressure, right? So, team that really, obviously there's only one champion, only one team can win, but this is going to be the team that has the most amount of pressure to win or to at least do something. I'm going to start off in the Eastern Conference. I'm going to just go from the 8th seed probably to the 10th seed because the 11th seed and I'd say both conferences aren't making the playoffs. So I'm going to go from the 1 to the 10th seed. So I'm going to start with the Boston Celtics. Now, I'm going to do a scale of 1 to 10 for the amount of pressure, and then I'm going to talk about it. The Boston Celtics, 51 and 14. They've made one finals appearance since 2008. And just how stacked the team is. Drew Holiday's aging a little bit. Al Horford's aging a little bit. I'd say the amount of pressure is about an 8 or a 9. 9 or a 10. This team is built to win right now. Should it be a landslide and should they just cruise through the Eastern Conference? Yes. They should just be able to cruise, but are they going to? It's debatable. You got teams like the Cavs, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Sixers if they get Embiid back, the Miami Heat, even though they're on a 4-game losing streak. All those teams, either the Celtics aren't going to have, there's 2 series, possibly 3 in the Eastern Conference if they match up against these teams. They're not going to have the best player. It's going to be against the Bucks, the Sixers, if Embiid is healthy, and the Miami Heat, depending how Jimmy Butler is playing. Because in the playoffs, we've seen that Jimmy Butler's arguably one of the best players in the world when it comes to the playoffs. Now against the Cavs, against the Knicks, against the Magic, against the Pacers, they will have the best player in Jason Tatum, sneaking up on having the second best player as well. But they have a lot of pressure because they got arguably the best team in the league. The most top heavy. Like, they got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, Derek White, Porzingis, Al Horford. That's a solid 6. It's an amazing starting lineup with a 6-man. The other amount of depth is questionable, but there's no reason. You have 4 former or current All-Stars and someone that could. Al Horford made an All-Star like 10 years ago, but I'm not talking about 10 years ago. I'm talking about within the past 7 years, past 5 years. But the Celtics have a lot of pressure. They should cruise through the Eastern Conference. So yeah, let's get on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, the number 2 seed right now after their win tonight against the Pelicans, 42-24. With Donovan Mitchell coming back, hopefully Evan Mobley comes back and he's still relatively the same player. They have Jared Allen, Darius Garland. They picked up Max Strus. They picked up Georges Niang. Sam Morrell has been a solid piece for them. Craig Porter, when he gets minutes, has been pretty good. So the Cavs, I don't want to say that they have a lot of pressure. I don't want to say they have a lot of pressure, but they have pressure to make it out of the first round. They got pressure to make it out of the first round. They lost to a team last year in the Knicks who just outplayed them, out-muscled them, out-grittied them. There was no reason they should have necessarily lost that series in 5, and especially the way they did. I get it. Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, a lot of those guys, it was their first playoff experience. They played in the play-in the year before, but they lost to the Atlanta Hawks, and that's all the experience that, to be honest, that they really got. So the defense is different, the offense is different, everything, the foul calling, the play, everything is completely different. You're playing a lot more too. So the playoffs are different. I think Darius Garland, Evan Mobley are going to come into this postseason, and they're going to show out. I think Darius Garland is going to realize I'm an all-star. There was no reason we should have lost. So I'd say there's like a 5 or a 6, at least to make it out of the first round. If they lose to the Bucks or the Celtics or even the Knicks in the second round, and as long as they put up a somewhat decent fight, then I'm not worried about it. The Milwaukee Bucks, a 9 or a 10, just like the Boston Celtics. They traded everything away to get Damian Lillard. They fired their coach mid-season, and they're looking good. I will say I'm getting more confident in the Milwaukee Bucks, especially with that defense. Damian Lillard's getting a little bit more confidence. They're running more pick and rolls with Dame and Giannis. Wondering when Chris Middleton's going to be back. Malik Beasley's been shooting the ball well. Patrick Beverley, just whenever Patrick Beverley comes into a locker room, just the defense just changes. I don't know what he does. I don't know. But the Bucks are like a 9 or a 10 because you have an MVP caliber player in Giannis. You have a superstar caliber point guard in Damian Lillard. You have shooters. You have Brook Lopez. You have Bobby Portis. You have a former All-Star Chris Middleton. You have Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley. You have some young players. Like you have a solid team, and you have Doc Rivers. So you have a solid team where if you play the Boston Celtics, yes, you're gonna have Derek White and Jrue Holiday guarding Damian Lillard, but no one on that court should be able to stop Giannis. And if Malik Beasley's shooting the ball, Patrick Beverley's coming in and playing hard-nosed defense like he does, I think it'll be a problem. I think the Milwaukee Bucks can cause a problem to the Boston Celtics. That's why I said they're both about a 9 or 10, because either one of those teams I feel like should be in the finals. One of those two teams. If a different team is in the finals, it is a disaster, and it's a disaster for these two teams, and it's a failure of a season. The New York Knicks, 4th in the Eastern Conference, 38-27. Don't know what's going on with Julius Randle. OG just came back. I didn't get a chance to watch that game. Jalen Brunson just came back a couple days ago. They're still missing Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle, but they traded for Bojan Bogdanovic. They also traded for Alec Burks. They got Precious Achiuwa. So depending on what happens with Julius Randle, it can go from either them being a team that can go deep in the playoffs because they have such a deep roster, or a team that gets upset because they're not healthy. Now that's the only problem or the only thing with the New York Knicks is their health right now. They got the depth, but even though Julius Randle struggles in the playoffs, they do really need a Julius Randle type player. Just because there are those nights where he's catching and shooting or hitting his step backs, and he can get you a game or two, and that's what the Knicks may need against a Cleveland Cavaliers, a Milwaukee Bucks, or even a Boston Celtics, is that 1 or 2 games where Julius Randle just is playing like Julius Randle. And you also got Jalen Brunson, who Jalen Brunson's going to do his thing no matter what in the playoffs. If he's not scoring, he's playmaking, getting everyone else involved. If OG's not hitting the shot well, he's defending their best player. Or you can throw Bojan Bogdanovic in there. He'll defend the best player, even though he's a little out of his prime, where he's guarding the LeBrons, the Giannis's, but he can still shoot the ball and he can still play solid defense. Orlando Magic, I'd say it's like a 3. This is their first year in the playoffs since Vucevic, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner. There's really no pressure for the Orlando Magic. I don't really have to say anything. This is their first year really in the playoff hunt, playoff mix. So there's really no pressure for them. The Philadelphia 76ers, as of today, if Embiid doesn't play, it's like a 3 or a 4. But if Embiid comes back, it'll be pushed up to like a 7 or 8, which, again, I'd love to see Joel Embiid play. But the injury, playoffs coming along, his struggles in the playoffs, I don't really want to see that. So with Joel Embiid, like a 7 or 8. Without Joel Embiid, like a 3. I'm not Tyrese Maxey. I already know Tyrese Maxey is going to get buckets. Tobias Harris can earn himself some more money if he plays well. Same with Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre. Like, they got a bunch of expiring contracts with key role players on this team. Just if they can somehow keep a few of them, like Tobias Harris, if they can sign him for a lot cheaper of a deal. I'm not saying he's going to sign for a 10, 15 mil, but sign him for like a 20, 25 mil deal to keep him, because I think he could be a good 3-4 depending on who you can get in free agency this offseason. The Indiana Pacers, again, their pressure's like a 3. They're their first year in the playoffs. Tyrese Halliburton's been struggling, especially with his injury. And then they traded for Siakam. So I think next year it might be a little bit higher, especially if they make the playoffs and they somehow get out of the first round playing a Boston, a Cleveland, or even a Milwaukee Bucks if they can pass the 76ers in the standings. The Miami Heat, I'd say that one's also a little bit higher because they made the finals last year. Now, if they didn't make the finals last year and they were first round or second round exit, it'd be like a 5 or a 6, but I'd say it's more of like an 8 or 9 for the Miami Heat. Their roster is relatively up there in age. Jimmy Butler's 34, 35 years old. Terry Rozier's turning 30. You got Kevin Love. So, I mean, they have young players. They got Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Caleb Martin, like 26, 27. So they got some relatively young guys. But with the way that they played last year and the way that they can turn up in the playoffs, I think that they really do have quite a bit of pressure because their goal is to win the championship. The Pacers, the Magic, their goal was to make the playoffs. Their goal is not to win the finals. That's why theirs is so low. And the 76ers, without Joel Embiid, they just want to make the playoffs. With Joel Embiid, they want to win a championship, so that's why it's lower or higher if Joel Embiid's there. So the Miami Heat, I'd say it's more of like an 8 or 9 because you have been to the finals twice. You've been to the conference finals multiple times. You've been a first-round exit. You've been everywhere. You've been one of the most consistent teams in the league since you got Jimmy Butler. So, yes, there's going to be some added pressure to that, but Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, they haven't stunk up under pressure. Chicago Bulls, Atlanta Hawks, a 1. Obviously, the Chicago Bulls, we've wanted to contend for a while. For the past few seasons, since we got Lonzo, since we got DeMar and Vucevic, and since we extended Zach LaVine, we've wanted to contend, but this is just not a good roster. the Atlanta Hawks, obviously your goal was to make the playoffs, and you failed it. You failed at that. You guys are the 10th seed, 29-36. Trae Young is still out for a few weeks. You traded all your draft capital for DeJounte Murray. It didn't work last year. Traded John Collins. Thought that was going to be the issue solver, problem solver, and it just hasn't. You guys are still not very good. So everyone except the top four, and including the Sixers, have somewhat of pressure. No one else really has any pressure. Let's get to the Western Conference. So we're going to start off with the Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets, first seed, 46-20. They're on a 4-game win streak. They just beat the Miami Heat tonight. They just beat the Miami. It's finals rematch. They just beat the Miami Heat tonight. They're the first seed right now. They're a half game above the OKC Thunder. Obviously, they really just want home court advantage throughout the playoffs. If they face Boston in the playoffs, in the finals, they're not going to have home court. But if they face anyone else in the finals, in the conference finals, semifinals, first round, they're going to have home court advantage because they're the number 1 seed as of today. And that's all they wanted. Playing in Denver is a different animal. The air, the breathing, and all that stuff, completely different than any other place. And in the playoffs, you have a Nikola Jokic, you have a Jamal Murray, you have an Aaron Gordon, one of the best role players in the league. You have a Michael Porter Jr. who can go off for 30 any given night. You have a Reggie Jackson who can also give you buckets. You have a Christian Braun. I've loved his his progression this season. Paul Watson. You got, even though he's old and not nearly as good and athletic, you got a DeAndre Jordan off the bench. You did lose Jeff Green. You lost Bruce Brown. But you still have Jokic. You have Jokic and Jamal Murray. They can go off for they can go off for 40. So the amount of pressure on them, I'd say, is like a 9 or a 10 because back-to-back champions. That's what you would want them to do, and they have Nicole. They have the MVP. So you always want to contend when you have the MVP of the league. OKC Thunder. I'd say, even though this is their first year making the playoffs since Russell Westbrook, they have a little bit of added pressure because they're the 2 seed. But again, I'm not gonna say it's like it's an 8 or a 9. I'd say it's more like a 5 or a 6. You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you have Chet Holmgren, you have J-Dub, you have Josh Giddey, you have Lu Dort, you have a nice young core with Shai leading them. I'm surprised that they're the 2 seed. At the beginning of the season, I would have said they're going to be at the best 6, barely making the playoffs, but they're the 2 seed, 45-20, have shown that they can contend. I think they can be a contender in this league this year. The defense Chet plays, even though they're a little bit undersized outside of Chet Holmgren, they got a 6'6" point guard. They got like a 6'6" power forward, like a 6'5" small forward. They got a 6'8" shooting guard, and then they got a 7'1", 7'2" center. So it's kind of all over the place a little bit. With the size and the rebounding is a struggle for them, but they don't struggle to score. They don't struggle to really play defense. But in order for them to really be good, Josh Giddey got to get out of that starting lineup. Throw Aaron Wiggins in there. Throw Isaiah Joe in there. It's just going to give you 3-point shooting. Because they're going to do... Josh Giddey's going to get tortured on the defensive side of the basketball, and he's also going to be left wide open. If Josh Giddey wins you a game, then if I'm the other team, I guess I'm fine with it. Because Josh Giddey can't shoot anything outside of the paint, and he can't play defense. So, I mean, that's the only problem with their starting lineup is... Josh Giddey's a great playmaker, good ball handler. He just can't shoot and just can't play defense. That's the only problem he got. So if they can somehow figure something around that, then I think they'll be solid. The Minnesota Timberwolves, with Karl Anthony Towns, it's like a 7. Without him, it's like a 4. Obviously, you're the 3 seed. You don't want to lose to the 6 seeded Sacramento Kings in the first round, or the Phoenix Suns if they get up there, or the Pelicans if they fall. Like you don't want to be a first round exit as a third seed. You just do not want to be a first round exit as a third seed. But without Karl-Anthony Towns, that's a 20+ point per game scorer. It's your starting power forward, one of the best shooters in the league as a big man, someone that can go off for 60 as we've been able to see. Someone that if Anthony Edwards doesn't have it, Karl-Anthony Towns says, give me the ball, and I'm going to go to work. Or someone that can play off of Anthony Edwards really well because he can space the floor, and he's been playing really good defense this season. They beat, who did they beat? I think they played tonight. They did not. Who did they play last night? They beat the Clippers last night. Kawhi Leonard went out, so it's all good. It's all good. We're not tripping about the Clippers losing last night, especially because Kawhi Leonard wasn't there. But they're 45-21, one-game win streak. As I said, one of the best defenses in basketball, if not the best defense in basketball. Like I talked about previously, they're the best defense in basketball. It's just they struggle to score because you have a Rudy Gobert. You have a Mike Conley who's not a score-first point guard. He's more of a playmaking point guard, a pass-first point guard, so it's maybe a little bit of a struggle to score, especially because Jaden McDaniels has taken a step. I will say that. I think you need him in order to really contend. You need him to take another step in scoring, another step in maybe ball handling a little bit, like Karl-Anthony Towns. Kyle Anderson's been playing probably the worst year of his career. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's been playing phenomenal basketball. They just signed T.J. Warren. They got Monte Morris. They got Naz Reid. So like they're set if Karl-Anthony Towns misses the first few games. I want to say they're pretty set. Obviously, you don't want to miss Karl-Anthony Towns. You want Karl-Anthony Towns to play every single game. But if he needs to recover for another week as the playoffs start, I think you can sacrifice 2 or 3 games because you have a Naz Reid. You have a Kyle Anderson who can do good things in the playoffs. He's a veteran. You have Anthony Edwards that can go for 40 to 50. He averaged 30 last year against the Denver Nuggets. You got Mike Conley, who's a former All-Star. You got Jaden McDaniels, like I said. You got T.J. Warren. Like you have guys there. Obviously, like I said, without Karl-Anthony Towns, it's like a 4 or 5. With, it's like a 6 or 7 because you traded all your capital, all your role players for Rudy Gobert. Not to just make the playoffs, but to go on a second to conference finals run, maybe even a finals. If you somehow face like a Sacramento or a Phoenix, I think that those are teams that you guys can beat. The Nuggets might be a little bit of a struggle, but you have a small chance just because of that guy that wears number 5 in Minnesota. All right, 4th seed, Los Angeles Clippers, 41-23. I think they probably have the second most amount of pressure in the league. Behind, I'm not going to talk about them yet, but I think the Clippers have the second. They're top 5 in the most amount of pressure because this is the 4th season with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You have your point guard in James Harden. You have a deep roster. You have a pretty deep roster. You have Terrence Mann, James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi, Zubac, Plumlee, Tice, Westbrook when he comes back. You have Amir Coffey. You have Brandon Boston Jr., Norman Powell. Like you have depth. You have some serious depth, especially after trading James Harden. I thought the depth was going to be a problem. It really has not been a problem for them. It's just, it's just tough because the only thing we're worried about with the Clippers is health. If they're healthy, then they're for sure contenders. The pressure is 10. Pressure's 10. Last time that both of them were healthy, they blew the 3-1 lead against the Nuggets in the bubble. Next year, Kawhi Leonard goes down in the second round, and they go to 6 against the Phoenix Suns. And then last year, they did not make... No, this is the 5th year with them? This is the 5th year. Bubble, conference finals, no playoffs, first round. This is the 5th year with them. Wow, I thought it was only 4. Damn. So this is the 5th year with them. They are... conference finals exit, semifinals exit, first round exit, no playoffs. This year's got to be championship or bust for them. If not, Paul George, I don't think, 99% chance he's going to stay. But Paul George can walk. Paul George can go to a Phoenix Sun. Paul George can go to a Philadelphia 76ers. Paul George can go to a team with salary cap. Do I think he's gonna leave? No, but there's a chance that he can leave if you guys don't make some noise. So they have some of the most amount of pressure in the league this year. All right, number 5, 39-26 New Orleans Pelicans. Now this one's a little more complicated because they're finally healthy and they're still relatively mid. Brandon Ingram has not been having the season I thought he was going to have. Zion Williamson, again, has not been having the season I thought he'd have. Let me look at C.J. McCollum. I haven't heard a lot about C.J. McCollum this year. I haven't heard a lot. Let me see. Yeah, tonight he scored 8 points against the Cavs. That ain't going to cut it, C.J. What are his stats for this season? Come on, this thing needs to load up quicker. Per game this year, he's averaging 18.3 points on 15 shots, 45% from the field, 41% from 3, 4 assists, 2 turnovers. Okay, so he's not having a bad year in comparison to what I thought he was having, because I haven't really heard much from him. Brandon Ingram, he is averaging 21.3 points, and Zion, let me see how much he's averaging. He actually had a decent game. Considering that they got blown out. He's averaging 22, so yeah. Zion, from being someone that's averaging 27 points per game on very, very, very good efficiency, for him to be averaging 22 and then being the 5th seed, even though they're a good team, it's just they're not necessarily performing how you thought and how you would want them to. So I'd say it's like a 5 or 6. I want them to at least make some noise in the playoffs. This is Zion's first playoffs. So I want them to at least make a little bit of noise. Maybe not lose. If they can bring a Los Angeles Clippers team to 6 or 7 games, then I would say that's a success for this year. And then next year you really have to go up. But the pressure is probably like a 5 or 6, just for them to at least be competitive against the Los Angeles Clippers. Sacramento Kings, 38-27. I don't think that they have a lot of pressure on them. I want to say it's more like a Pelicans. I'd say it's more like a 5 or 6, considering the fact De'Aaron Fox is not having the great year we thought he would have, coming off of a playoff appearance last year. Sabonis has been their best player. He's got the most amount of triple doubles. He is top 10 in MVP, but didn't make an All-Star game, which made no sense to me. Kevin Huerter's playing decent. He's shooting the ball. Malik Monk has been playing good. Keegan Murray thought he was going to take a little bit of a bigger step, maybe be able to ball handle a little bit better, especially literally the first play for him in the Summer League. Just drove the lane, just yammed on him. Thought he was gonna take that step. Didn't necessarily take the step. Didn't take a step back, but he didn't necessarily take a step up. And yeah, considering the Sacramento Kings, I want to say this is relatively the same record they had last year, and they're the 6th seed. This just shows how much depth there is in the Western Conference. Just shows how much depth compared to the Eastern Conference. If the Sacramento Kings were in the Eastern Conference, if the Suns or even the Mavericks were in the Eastern Conference, they're a 4 seed. But here they're a 6, 7, 8 seed. It's wild. All right, the next team, the Phoenix Suns. It's a 9 or 10. Durant's playing arguably some of the best basketball of his career. Devin Booker, he misses games, but he's playing great. Bradley Beal's been missing a lot of time. I think they're still all trying to get adjusted to having 3 score-first players. I get Kevin Durant had it with Kyrie Irving and James Harden, but I think Kyrie Irving and James Harden, it's a little bit different. James Harden is more of a James Harden can score, but on that team he was a playmaker. James Harden said, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, you guys score the ball. If I need to, I'll score, but if not, I'm going to just play make, and I'm going to do everything else. On this team, they really don't have that necessarily. Bradley Beal still wants to get his buckets. Booker, he's taken on the playmaking. Shout out Chris Paul for being there for a few seasons and helping him develop that playmaking. It's really helped this team a lot, especially since he became pretty much the point guard. And Kevin Durant's just been doing what Kevin Durant does. And Kevin Durant's been the healthiest star here, and he's 36, which is it's just crazy. And they're the 7th seed. Kevin Durant's played most of the season, and he's having probably arguably the best season of his career. And they're the 7th seed. It's just wild, but it's a 9 or a 10. You trade all that to get Bradley Beal. This off season, if you guys don't win, a lot of those role players don't come back because they're on minimum 1-year deals, and you have 3 guys making $40+ million a year. It's just it looked good and it seemed like it was going to be good, but it just you kind of fumbled it with getting. I would have liked to keep Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, try to build off of that, get some more depth, but not my call. The Dallas Mavericks. I want to say it's a 6 or a 7 because you have Kyrie Irving. You traded for Daniel Gafford. You traded for P.J. Washington. You traded for, or you drafted Derek Lively. Last year you traded for Kyrie Irving. You made moves to get better, but you haven't necessarily gotten better. Last year you were the 11th seed. That's how you got Derek Lively. You have a better team than last year, so you would think with Luka, Kyrie, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dante Exum is having an amazing season. P.J. Washington has been good since he came to Dallas. Daniel Gafford, it has like 32 or 33 straight field goal makes. You made moves. It's just they gotta play better. The defense is still iffy. Anything outside of Kyrie Irving and Luka is kind of iffy on the offensive side of the basketball, which you could have expected. But it's like a 6 or a 7 because 2 years ago you did make the conference finals. You were a series away of making the finals and potentially winning. So that's why it's at like a 6 or 7 for me. You have Luka and Kyrie. You can possibly upset some of these upper seeds. You can possibly upset a OKC, a Minnesota if they go back up to this 2 seed. Are they gonna upset Denver? Probably not. But Denver don't want to see Luka. Jokic don't want to see Luka in the playoffs. The Los Angeles Lakers. I'm going to talk about the Lakers and the Warriors a little bit here. The Lakers, this offseason, re-signed everyone besides Dennis Schroeder. And they brought in Jackson Hayes. They brought in Cam Reddish. They brought in some new guys, Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince. They brought in some key, decent role players for some other teams. And they just haven't been able to really do much with it. 36 and 31 in the 9th seed. LeBron James, this is the crazy thing. LeBron James and Anthony Davis have been healthy this year. They haven't missed a lot of time. And they are the 9th seed. With LeBron playing good basketball at 39, Anthony Davis playing good basketball at 30. Anthony Davis probably having one of the best defensive years of his career, and he's not even going to be considered in the Defensive Player of the Year race, which is crazy. But yeah, the Lakers got an insane amount of pressure if they make the playoffs because you have LeBron, who's 39. You have Anthony Davis, who is 30. You have D'Angelo Russell. You have Austin. Like you have a team. They've been on their thing this year. They've been on their thing, not this year. Recently, they've been on their thing. They've been winning. They've been playing good defense. They've been winning without LeBron because he's missed a couple games. But this is, even though it's weird because they're the 9th seed, this is a team that can upset a Denver Denver was the stupidest team I could have named. They could upset a OKC. They could upset a Minnesota. I don't think they're going to upset the Clippers. The Pelicans, they have a chance. The Kings, they can definitely upset. It wouldn't even really be an upset, but you get what I mean. They could definitely beat some of those teams in the playoffs. The Pelicans can be iffy. I think that'll go 6 or 7. I'm not sure who I would take. But I want to say, I said an insane amount of pressure, but I'd say it's more like a 7 or 8 because they're the 9th seed. And then the Golden State Warriors, they have an insane amount of pressure because this can be the last year of the three, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Last year, they were the 6th seed. They played the Sacramento Kings. They won. They lost to the Lakers in the semifinals. But Steph Curry being 36 and playing the basketball that he's playing, Klay Thompson's been coming off the bench, and when he came off the bench, he was playing good. And Steph Curry's been out the past couple games. You got Chris Paul. You got Draymond Green, who's up there in age. You got Andrew Wiggins, who's making a crap ton of money. You got Kevon Looney. Like, you have young guys, and you have aging guys. You have a solid roster around Steph Curry. It's just weird that they can't win. They can't win. Yeah, I want to say it's mainly the defense. It's mainly the defense, yeah. Yeah, that's what it's looking like, the defense. Oh, man. Right now, from what I'm seeing, in the playoffs, in the Western Conference, in the top 10, they're 7th in defense. And then in the Eastern Conference, they are... Wow. Yeah, they're allowing a lot of points. But yeah, it's mainly the defense, and especially because Klay Thompson's not the defender he used to be, and something happened to Andrew Wiggins. I hope he gets better soon. I hope he starts playing good basketball. He's been playing decent basketball as of recently, but most of the season he hasn't really been playing the best amount of basketball. But yeah, that's the teams that have those are the team. What's the most amount of pressure? I don't know how I'm gonna title it. This is the amount of pressure every team got, I guess you can say. I'd say the team that has the most amount of pressure is Boston. That's what I'm going to say. That's definitely what I'm going to say. But that is going to be it for this episode of the Trey TD podcast. This is episode 3. If you guys like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Peace.